Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of the Top Order podcast. Look, the Asia Cup final is in the bag, and a topsy-turvy labyrinth of mystery and intrigue had Stu and I so excited that we just had to talk about it. So we'll cover the Asia Cup final between India and Pakistan. Stu's got a couple of shout-outs as well, which will be interesting to cover as part of that Asia Cup wrap-up. Then, look, cricket fans, I know you've been in the doldrums for quite a period of time, but don't worry, the trade winds of cricket are coming, and we are going to kick off a big summer of cricket by talking about one item that's getting us excited about this upcoming sort of summer of cricket here in the Southern Hemisphere. We'll try and keep it to one item each. Maybe we'll throw a wild card in there. Look, all that and more coming up on the Top Order podcast as soon as I find the swish, which I think is this one. No, not that one. Bugger it. We'll just jump straight into the episode. Stu, you can edit all of that out in the edit.
Oh, there's no edits. There's been so many times when I've been swishing and pressing the wrong button and swishing over people. No, we leave it all in now so that everyone can see that it's not just me.
Oh, well, look, you're a great man. Look, let's get into this Asia Cup final. Like I said in the intro, it was a topsy-turvy labyrinth of mystery and intrigue between Pakistan and India. The game wasn't quite as straightforward as a 5-wicket win in the last over would have us believe. Lots happened in this game. Stu, take us from 110 for 1 halfway through the first innings. Pakistan yet again in an encounter with India in a bit of a box seat halfway through their first innings.
Yeah, geez, you guys talked on Sunday night too, so 2 days ago, New Zealand time, and I feel like we could do another whole This Week in Cricket. Obviously we're here again to do a bit more of a chat, mainly focusing on this game, but I feel like there's been so much happening over the past couple of days that, we could be here for another hour and a half talking about things. But, just on this game, this Asia Cup final, as you say, Pakistan were in the box seat. They started this game. India's playing without Hardik Pandya, which meant Shivam Dube's opening the bowling, which, to be fair to him, did a really nice job of that. I thought
did a great job.
Tough job to, come in. We've talked about him a bit in this tournament of someone who, we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't have high expectations of him with the ball, with the bat. I always thought he was more of a cherry on the top kind of player, like in that lineup. If he comes off, it's a big bonus. Whereas if, some of those other guys, you're not necessarily relying on him to do the job, but we might talk about him later on in the chase because he played a very important role once again there. But even with his, him doing a decent job, Jasprit Bumrah bowling at the other end, Pakistan are 45 for none after the power play. Spinners come on. Farhan, who's been very impressive in this tournament, and Fakhar Zaman as well, who we know how dangerous he is. They both looked very keen to start. Once that power play, ended, they both looked very keen to go, okay, spinners are on now. This is going to be the winning and the losing of this match. We're going to not let them settle. We're going to, we'll obviously respect the good balls. Everyone's sort of done that in this tournament. There hasn't been the huge scores that we sometimes see in T20 cricket. But they didn't want to let them settle. They attacked balls that they thought they could hit over the rope. And for the most part, they did a very good job of that. It was, 81 or 84 before we saw the first wicket. Farhan hits Varun Chakravarti to deep mid-wicket. And even then, you could see how frustrated he was when he got out. He'd done all the hard work. Just India was on the back foot. And as you say, they kept going. Fakhar Zaman, started to pick up that mantle. Farhan, I think, was the aggressor, really, you could say, to start that innings. And then Fakhar Zaman picks it up. But 113 for 1, you're thinking, okay, how much can Pakistan actually get here? But the wickets just started to tumble. Kuldeep, Akshar, Varun, he gets the big one again of Fakhar Zaman, deposited over the rope. Next ball, we know that Fakhar Zaman, he loves that leg side shot, right? He always, that's his go. He wants it, tossed up there. We've seen, from New Zealand point of view, I feel like he just targets Mitchell Santner and our other spinners. He wants to be hitting into that leg side. He just hit Varun back over his head for 6. Brilliant little deception, I think, and kind of brains from Varun Chakravarti. Pushed it a touch wider, and Fakhar Zaman, I think, in flight goes, okay, I can't hit this one to the leg side. It's just too wide there, so has to try and go over the leg side. scoops it up in the air and caught at point. And, from there, like that's a little collapse to get from 113 for 1 to 126 for 4. But the collapse just continued and continued. And I mean, I won't run through all the wickets, but they didn't make great viewing for Pakistan fans, I don't think. India's spinners bowled very, very well. But Baldy, I wanted to get your take on kind of what's the mindset here, because I think in my head, my head always kind of goes to what should players do in this situation? You're in a scenario where you're well on top in this game, you lose a couple of wickets. T20 cricket, is it a situation where you just think it doesn't matter anymore? We just have to keep going. A good score is what we can get, and every single T20 player now thinks that. They don't go out there and assess the wicket and think, okay, well, this is a 150 pitch. Or is this actually maybe a reflection of Pakistan having a relative lack of experience, international experience in that lineup? And I mean, to be fair, some of the experienced players are some of the ones who played some bad shots as well. But, should they have taken a step back here at, even maybe when Fakhar goes out and it's 126 for 4 and go, okay, like maybe 170 is our target here. We regroup for a couple of overs, and then we try and hit out and get what we can off the last 3.
Yeah, look, a really nuanced question and a really difficult one to answer. And whatever we say now is effectively the cricket equivalent of Monday morning quarterbacking, right? But I think 170 in a final, runs on the board in a final is always a pressure-inducing moment for the side batting second, and it takes a lot to deal with that pressure in a final. I think if Pakistan had have worked their way to 170, would have been very, very competitive. It's easy to say in hindsight, they were 25 short and lost in the last over. That's all true. I feel like, and again, this is going to sound like Monday morning quarterbacking, but having someone like Baba or having someone like Rizwan in the middle order that in this very specific scenario can help guide the team to a competitive total in the same way that New Zealand would lean on Kane Williamson to do in a one-day international or even a T20 up until a few years ago, is the reason why you have a guy like that in your team. He's not going to come off and get 80 off 30 for you in the same way that Rinku or a Pollard or any of those kind of pick any of the Indian players really in that lineup that could do that for you. But and I know I don't want this to sound like Monday morning quarterbacking, but that's what Pakistan missed in this final, is the ability to take them from 110 for 1 to 170 or 175 in those last 10 overs, right? At the point where they lost, they were 113 for 2 at the end of the 13th over, right? 12.5. So they still had 7 overs to go after that. They really needed 60 runs, but they only got 30 runs and they lost 9 wickets as a result. Again, very easy to say that they over-attacked in that situation, but reading the scenario, reading the game situation and having game awareness for all of the explosiveness of modern T20 cricketers, for all of the explosiveness and devil-may-care attitude of Bazball, having an understanding of game awareness and what is going to get us to a winning score is still, even in 2025, a massively underrated mental strength and mental string to the bow of a really, really good number 4 batter. And I think if you have a look at the way that this Pakistan lineup lines up, Mohammad Harris and Salman Agha, and to a lesser extent Sam Ayub at number 3, really needed to steer the ship, and they did not. And unfortunately, the result is that India were allowed to bowl well, and they bowled excellently. We expect their spin to be good, and it was outstanding. But you cannot win a final when your numbers 4 through 11 in the order produce numbers that look like a phone number. 0816, 0061, and then 7 extras is not going to win you a final, particularly after the guys at the top of the order did all the hard work to get you into a good position. So is it the fault of the Pakistan middle order? 80% yes. Is it 20% India? Terrific bowling over and above what we expect from them to produce. They're probably 20% better than what we expected them to be on the day. But yeah, no, it's Pakistan really, from a middle order perspective, missed an opportunity to put India under serious pressure with the bat. As it was, though, Pakistan was still able to exert a lot of pressure on India with the ball early on in that contest.
Were they what? I mean, just on your point there, I think that's like, as you say, it's hard to sort of pinpoint a particular person in that lineup, Pakistan lineup, and go, okay, it was your role to do that, to take on that responsibility. But I think if they are building this side and we're looking for where can they improve, I think it's that sort of it's that versatility to go, okay, my role is this today. And I think when we look through that Indian lineup, there are a number of, I mean, we've talked about earlier in the tournament, the way that they have all-rounders that can bat in different positions in the lineup. And I think of someone like Akshar Patel. He would have been the absolute perfect person to bring out at 5 in that lineup when you're 113 or 113 for one and you lose 3 quick wickets, and you go, okay, who do we need to just rebuild us for a little while? And in the end, for India, he wasn't even required because of the way that their batting lineup is set up. But for Akshar can hit and he can rebuild. There's other players in that Indian lineup who can do that. In the Pakistan lineup, it doesn't feel like they have that at the moment, and that's probably the next step that they need to take.
We'll have a look at the strike rates of the Indian players that scored runs in this contest. 130, 114, 150. No one struck at 160 to 200, which is kind of the pass mark for a modern T20 player. India reassessed the situation when they got themselves into a hole at 3 for 20 and said, right, well, what do we need to get to win this game in the 19th or the 20th over? And Tilak Varma, Sanju, Samson, Shivam, Dube take a bow. You get all the plaudits because in a final that is a tough get, a tough chase, you're already in a hole. Your big strike power is gone at the top of the order. Your talismanic skipper's gone for 1 off 5. Someone needs to dig deep and take you deep into the game, and that's what the Indian batters were ultimately able to do, whereas the Pakistan batters did not take their innings anywhere near deep enough. They still had 5 balls to go, and they were 9 down with a little bit to go in the contest. So, they were 8 down in the 17th over. That's not taking the game deep. That's not maximizing all 120 balls that you have to deliver a score. You talk about going hard and going as hard as you can as potentially one outcome, but one of the corollaries of that is you miss out on balls at the back end of your innings, and you can't afford to miss out on balls against a team as good as India is, particularly with that India batting lineup, right?
Absolutely. But as you say, Pakistan, I think we have to give their bowling attack a lot of credit for the way that they, when we saw the end of that Pakistan innings, the momentum, we use it a lot on here, but it was all with India. They were walking off that field, all smiles. In that Pakistan dressing room, it must have been, a massive tone of frustration. Everyone must have been really annoyed with how that innings went after such a good start. But Fahim gets Abhishek straight away. Salman Ali Agha takes a brilliant juggling catch to get Sky. It's 10 for 2. A couple of overs later, Fahim Ashraf gets Shubman Gill, and suddenly 20 for 3 after 4 overs, and you're going, hold on here. Like, what is happening to this Indian side who has looked, largely untouchable throughout this tournament? I know that, Sri Lanka took them to a super over, but that was a game that there was really nothing on it for the Indian team. Again, taking nothing away for the way Sri Lanka played in that game, but, there was no Bumrah. I don't think it was a game that India felt we must win this. Every other game, they've looked very, very comfortable. But as you say, it was players that, haven't really had a chance to shine, particularly in this tournament. It's players that maybe we felt were the bonus players for India. They, with the players that we thought, okay, well, they might come off once or twice in this tournament. This Indian batting lineup is so strong. They probably just need players to come off once or twice. But we have to give a massive amount of credit to the way that Tilak Varma, Sanju Samson rebuilt that innings. Sanju Samson, I mean, he's probably not going to get a huge amount of credit. He did get dropped, on 50 for 3. I do wonder what might have happened had they taken that chance. Pretty regulation catch off Abrar Ahmed. But I was so impressed. He comes in and he just crunches one through the covers for 4. Tilak Varma, he feels like he's been around for ages because of the IPL, but I think he's 23, 20, maybe even younger than that. He's a player that, I don't know, you kind of when you look through the Indian players that India has to select from, suddenly you think, oh yeah, Tilak Varma, he deserves to be there, but he doesn't necessarily feel from a neutral's point of view like, oh, he's an absolute must pick. And then you go through looking at his stats, and he averages about 50. Look how shocked you are. He averages he averages 50 in T20 cricket, and has been an incredible performer. And I think his composure today was fantastic. Shivam Dube's innings is, again, one that doesn't look massively impactful because it's 30 runs off, whatever it was, 20 balls. But again, he was able to come in and just turn. When he came in, they needed nearly tens. They needed 70 off 7 overs, and he was able to hit boundaries, hit a couple of sixes. They took 17 off a Harris Ralph over that changed the course of the game. So yeah, I just think, I don't know. We've talked about it so many times that the depth that India has, but it was really cool to see some of those kind of unsung heroes really get their flowers today and be able to deliver in those big moments.
Oh, absolutely. I've got nothing more to add, but, just to recap that praise for those 3 Indian batters, 146 chase is a 2 partnership game. And at 3 for 20, they needed a partnership to last between 8 and 10 overs. That's exactly what they got. They lost a wicket, and then they had, in fairness, 2 defining overs, and that boosted their win probability up, and they got a 3 or 4 over partnership that was probably worth 40 or 50 at that point. And from there on in, it was not a procession, but it was a game that was well within India's grasp at 111 for 4, for example. So to me, where India won the game was they were able to build 2 partnerships, and Pakistan only had really 1 partnership of any note in that game, and that was their opening partnership. And that was the pattern that we saw from them throughout the tournament. This is not an aberration. This is a pattern for Pakistan. They're able to get off to terrific starts, but their middle order is not able to set up and execute a winning scoreline for them, particularly against India. So, look, full credit to India. They were by far the best team at the tournament, it's fair to say. Deserving winners of this tournament, but did it in a way that I don't think many people would have expected them to go about that victory. Before we close out the Asia Cup final chat, you wanted to give a shout out? There was one more Asia Cup shout out that you wanted to dole out before we move on.
Yeah, and then I've got one question for you about this India side. I will say one. Well, I've got 2 shout outs actually. Just thinking about what you just said. One shout out, I think we do have to give Pakistan credit for the way that they improved throughout this tournament. I do think,
100%.
I do think they looked kind of a mess at the start of it. And, it's not a completely new group, but, they're certainly, becoming, I think they are hoping to become a different team and a growing team. And they were able to make strides at least on, I don't think they ever put kind of the complete performance that they want to put together in one game. And I don't even think that they kind of got even a batting group performance or a bowling group performance where everyone kind of did what they wanted to do. But you saw glimpses of what it could be. We saw Shaheen Shah Afridi start to look a little bit better. We saw, Abrar Ahmed have his moments. And we saw, what the likes of Farhan can do as well with the bat. So there's some blocks there now that they can think, okay, well, what have we got to work on up to the T20 World Cup? And I'm interested to see where they get to in that development over that, because I'm sure Mike Hesson, he's a much deeper thinker about cricket than we are, even though we're sitting here talking about it. he'll have his own thoughts about what they need to improve and how he can try and manage that through to putting on a performance in the T20 World Cup. The other person I was going to shout out, not even from this final, is Patam Nasanka. I know that wasn't playing in this final today, but I just think what he showed us at this tournament was that he's really underrated at a world level. I mean, I'm sure people in Sri Lanka know how good a player he is. I'm sure that maybe the people that generally watch the Asia Cup are able to see that, but I think the global media, he feels like someone who over the next 12 months at these big tournaments has a real chance to kind of show everyone what he's made of. So again, I'm kind of interested to see if he can take what he's shown in this tournament and for a little while now, and sort of able to show that on a much bigger scale. But as we start to kind of look ahead, this tournament leads on to a lot of stuff. I mean, we're going to talk about looking into the cricket that's all about to come up. These guys go from, India goes from this tournament 3 days later, they're going to be playing in a test, some of these guys, against the West Indies. The West Indies have just been beaten by Nepal. And, I'm sure none of those players are going to be in the same squad. Then we've got, Pakistan's going home to play Sri Lanka in test series. There's all these other tournaments and things going on in the lead up to these world tournaments. But for India, is the big question to come out of this. I know they've won. I know that they, again, looked largely untouched. But is their captain under some pressure after this, Baldy? I mean, Sky, brilliant player, someone we've all loved watching. When he's on, he's someone who, maybe it's too far to say that he, at times looks like he revolutionises T20 cricket. He can kind of play anywhere. He can hit the ball anywhere. He can manipulate the ball to different spaces that we hadn't necessarily seen before when he came along. But at the moment, it's not like India's short on players that can score quick runs and can do remarkable things. And we mentioned earlier on in the tournament, Jaiswal and Shreyas Iyer and all these other brilliant players that have missed out on the squad. There's other leaders in there like Hardik Pandya, Shubman Gill, Jasprit Bumrah. They're not short on leaders. They're not short on talent. Sky's scores in this tournament: 1, 12, 5, 0, 47 not out against Pakistan. Good innings, obviously. 7 not out. Take it back another 10 scores with 2, 0, 14, 12, 0, 1, 4, 21, 75, 8. It doesn't make great reading, Baldy. And, they've got a big tournament. They want to win that tournament. They're going to be playing at home, in that T20 World Cup in February, March. He's got to be feeling under some level of pressure, doesn't he?
Well, no Indian cricketer doesn't feel under some level of pressure. 1, because of the number of fans. 2, because of the intensity and the passion for which those 1.5 billion fans show for the game. But also because of the depth of Indian cricket. And you've just rattled off 4 or 5 names. I'm sure there are more in terms of people who are capable of stepping into those shoes should he have an extended run of outs. Sky himself has just said in a press release, I'm not out of form, I'm just short on runs. And I think one of the things that we have to take into consideration with T20 cricket more than anything else is that it's a rocks and diamonds game. And, of those 10 or 12 scores that you listed, yes, there are a whole bunch of low ones, but there are 2 match-winning scores in that set as well, right? There's a 47 against Pakistan and there's that 75 prior to the Asia Cup. So do you back Sky to produce you 2 match-winning scores in a tournament? Absolutely, I think that you do. And I think that he is probably in the 4 or 5 most devastating batters for India going forward. But he will be under a little bit of pressure, if for no other reason, that there are so many available folks that could step in and fill his shoes. Names that would walk into the first 11 for just about any other side on the planet, and at any other era of cricket as well, not just at the current stage. So, yeah, there'll be a little bit of pressure there, but I don't think that Sky should be concerned with that. I think he's got a role to play, which is to win India games of cricket with the bat. He's got plenty of players around him that can support him and can do the same thing. So I don't think he should be feeling like the whole world's on his shoulders, either from a leadership perspective or from a batting perspective. And the freer he plays, I think the better off he's going to be, because he is a revolutionary player. So that's all I have to say about that.
Fair enough. Yeah, look, I think they'll stick with him as well. I think that they'll stick with him through the end of this tournament. That T20 World Cup, and then we'll see what happens there. But it seems hard. It seems unlikely that they would replace him before that tournament. But I just thought, everything else seems to be clicking except him. And
everything's on the table for India at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Every position is on the table for India, probably except for Bumrah. I would say he's probably the only person who, if fit and healthy, is not on the table. That there is a person in the team that is ready to step in and take his place. I think everybody else has depth cover, who's almost as good, 90% to 95% as good, and could step in and replace player X, whoever they may be.
Yes, I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying all of them were under pressure, but I see you're saying there's basically someone who can step into those shoes if that player is not available yet.
For everyone except Bumrah,
I
think, and which tells you how all-time he is, really. Right, we have spent months in the cricketing doldrums, Stu, just awash in a sea of mill pond-like absence of cricket, it felt. Now, though, we're entering a period where the trade winds have kicked in, and there's just so much cricket on our horizon coming into the Southern Hemisphere summer. You mentioned probably a third of the tours in your brief recap of the what's happening in the post Asia Cup kind of area. England are coming to New Zealand this summer. Australia are coming to New Zealand this summer. England are going to Australia. Australia are playing India in the under-19s at the moment. There's a Women's World Cup that's about to kick off in about 6 or 7 hours' time. That's going to run for another month that I'm super excited about. So, for us going forward for the next few months, strap in, because there's going to be lots of top order cricket podcasting content for us to talk about, because there's going to be lots of cricket happening. We agreed in the prelim that we would say one thing that's exciting us about the summer of cricket coming our way. What's got you excited? One thing that's got you excited about this upcoming schedule of cricket, Stu?
Look, I think everyone here expects me to say that it's the New Zealand summer that kicks off tomorrow, actually, with the Aussies coming already here. I saw Glenn Maxwell out of that series, fractured his wrist yesterday in training. Mitch Owen smashed it back at him, sounds like, and hurt his. I don't know if he went to catch it or sounded like some sort of freak injury that's whacked him in the wrist. It's not a very fun way to. I can say from standing at one end bowling spin, and someone trying to smash it back at you is not very fun. So hope that doesn't keep him out for too long. But I will actually say that what I'm most looking forward to over the next few months is Test cricket, because, and largely that's, one, there's a lot of different. I think there's a lot of really fascinating series all over the globe. I know that the World Test Championship has its detractors because of the format and all of that sort of stuff. But I think that, for me at least, it's made Test cricket from outside of New Zealand and outside of the big series a lot more interesting, because I'm thinking about, how does this impact various things? And it's made me more aware of lots of the other teams. And as we said, India's playing the West Indies. We've got to think about India. They've got their own questions about their batting lineup. Karul Nair's gone to England and now he's been dropped. Sai Sudarshan sounds like he's going to get a chance to bat 3. There's a lot of options there about what they're going to do with their lineup and how they're going to perform against the West Indies. West Indies are going to be coming here after that series for some tests against New Zealand. So I want to see how they perform. But they're going to be playing in India, probably with lots of spinners, and they're going to be missing, I think, Shamar Joseph and Alzari Joseph for the series. So again, it's going to be completely different. As I just said, South Africa's going to Pakistan. What's going to be happening there? But, we haven't even mentioned the Ashes. You guys talked about that the other day. But I think for me, it's that Test cricket, because the back half of the New Zealand summer is very much going to be focused on the T20s. We're building to that T20 World Cup. So, we love Test cricket here at the top order, and I'm going to try and savour these few months that we are going to get to see some really high quality tests, I think, over that course of that time, and so that we can enjoy that time before we get the T20s, and that really takes over the back half, because that's going to be fun. I do love World Cups, and I do love thinking about that. Again, earlier on in the recordings, talked to Raj last week, I think it was, around this T20 World Cup, or this T20 side for New Zealand. I think there's a lot of question marks about how they're going to build their lineup and what lineups we're going to see and who's going to kind of get to play in those teams. But yeah, very, very much the test side of things for me. What about you?
Well, I just want to recap what you've just said there. I asked you to name one thing, and you named 6 Test series, and then talked about New Zealand's T20 cricket and the T20 World Cup. So well done you for using the land and expand approach to talk about several topics there. Look, the obvious answer for me is the Ashes. Everyone's excited about that. But I'm going to zig where other people would zag, or zag when other people would zig, and say I'm excited about the Women's World Cup coming up. A chance for Australia to really stamp their dominance on this tournament. I know we're perennial, heavyweights in World Cups, but I think that the field is edging ever closer to Australia, particularly India. That India series that Australia played, I think, has highlighted the fact that India can tip up Australia, particularly if Smriti Mandana plays well. There are a lot of girls in that, or women in the Indian side, that are not afraid of Australia. So that's going to be super exciting.
England just beat them as well, didn't they, in the warm-up game?
England beat Australia in the warm-up. I'm not reading as much into that outcome, but it still shows you that if Australia are off even by a little bit, that this could be a tournament that could see a big upset. No West Indies is a wild card. Bangladesh and Pakistan, as we said in the podcast a couple of days ago, qualifying for the tournament. So big opportunities for England, New Zealand, South Africa, to push for semi-final spots. It'll be interesting to see where New Zealand fans think their pass mark's going to be for this tournament, whether or not it's our pass mark to get to the semi-final, or are we targeting final as New Zealand fans? So the Ashes is the obvious answer, but I'm excited about this next month of cricket with the Women's World Cup. It's the best format. Everyone plays each other once, semi-final and final. Bang, let's go.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, you said pass mark for New Zealand. I'd be pretty happy with the semi-final. I mean, the White Ferns don't get to play a huge amount of cricket, like the men's side do, and I know that's been increasing. They've been working on trying to get more games, but any chance that the side gets to, exposure on the big stage and at these big tournaments is certainly welcomed. Here in New Zealand, it's going to be the last tournament for Sophie Devine as captain. And it'd be fantastic to see her go out and showcase kind of the qualities that she has throughout her whole New Zealand career. I mean, she's not only been a brilliant cricketer for New Zealand, she's played hockey for New Zealand. Like, she's been a tremendous New Zealand athlete for a long time, and it's been she's talked about, she's been very open and she's been a really great ambassador, I think, for the game here in New Zealand and for sport in general here in New Zealand. So I really hope for her that she can go out on a high, and whether that means just going through a tournament and showcasing what she can do and bringing a lot of spirit and fun to that New Zealand side would be great. But obviously, if we can go all the way and we'll push teams really, really hard, I think New Zealand fans will be very, very proud of what happens.
I completely agree. Just some, as we wrap up the show, just some further evidence that people in power in cricket listen to the Top Order podcast. We talked about Josh Philippe being potential call-up for Australia. He's been called up to replace Glenn Maxwell for this meaningless T20 tour of New Zealand, building up to next year's World Cup, whatever it is. But just so you know, we do get listened to, not by many people, but by the people that count here on the Top Order podcast. That wraps up this special edition Asia Cup final wrap-up and a preview of all the things that Stu's looking forward to in terms of the world of cricket coming up over the next few weeks. So stay tuned to the Top Order podcast, because we'll have lots more cricket content coming your way. Until then, play the game in the right way and take care of yourselves out there on the field. Talk to you soon then.